Talk. I'm WESH 2 First Warning Meteorologist Eric Burris. Thanks for joining us. We are tracking, of course, the very latest with Hurricane Milton. Just got the 8 a.m. intermediate advisory. Winds down just a touch more. Still a Category 4, still a very strong hurricane. Winds are at 145 miles an hour. But looking at the infrared satellite imagery, it seems very clear to me that this storm system is trying to develop a new eye, starting to perhaps clear out a bit of an eye wall. It underwent an eye wall replacement cycle yesterday, and more than likely that will be just what this storm system needs to get a little bit stronger over the course of the day today. All right, that said, let's dial into the National Hurricane Center's forecast from last night and into this morning, okay? They've been very, very consistent. Bringing it back up to a Category 5 is the expectation today, and then looking down the line tonight, tomorrow, back down to a Category 4, but as it weakens, the wind field would expand and works ashore sometime midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. on the west coast of Florida with about a maximum sustained wind of 125 or so miles an hour, and moves right through our area as a Category 2 type hurricane. So there's a lot to this storm system. Let's just kind of look and see the status of the storm right now. The Hurricane Center dropped the winds just a little bit because the thought process is it's undergoing an eye wall replacement cycle. But I would add that the Air Force Hurricane Hunter, SFMR, Stepped Frequency Microwave Radiometer, I believe is the acronym, did find Category 5 winds in its first core punch. And notably, the recon mission did not identify this as suspect data. So I think they put that out just to show that it's undergoing that eye wall replacement cycle. There are 2 recon missions in the storm system right now. I think once we get another core punch from each of these missions, we'll have better data. The NOAA aircraft is out of the Lakeland Lindner International Airport in Lakeland, and the red WC-130 Hercules mission is out of Keesler Air Force Base. Okay, so either way, storm system still very, very powerful, expected to move our direction tomorrow late day. So a couple of different things. Where are we at on our storm prep timeline? I think that we're at the stage where we need to be finishing preps through the day today. Confidence is growing in the overall forecast, which means that looking ahead to tomorrow, we're pretty confident we're going to get an impactful hurricane in Central Florida. We're pretty confident on the overall impacts to us. Now it's going to just be a matter of let's dial in timelines and that sort of thing, okay? All right, so first and foremost, how bad will the winds be in our area? Let's dial in and see. In purple here, and those purple shades, let me just widen this out for a moment. Those purple shades go all the way from about Fort Myers or North Fort Myers, Charlotte Harbor, Northport, Port Charlotte, Sarasota, Bradenton, Sun City Center, St. Pete, Tampa, up through Lando Lakes, Tarpon Springs, Dunedin. Those communities are looking at a major hurricane. The areas highlighted in purple, you're looking at a massive, massive windstorm, the worst of what hurricanes can offer. In our area, parts of Central Florida can expect that. From southern Lake County, southern Sumter County, down into Polk County, a real significant hit. Now, areas highlighted in red, which includes downtown Orlando, which includes Daytona Beach, which includes Titusville, which includes Melbourne, we're looking at hurricane force winds gusting 74 up to 110 miles an hour. Now, before we go much deeper than that, I want to take a minute and I want to look back here for a minute, okay? I want to discuss what winds we have seen in recent hurricanes, because I feel like this is one of those things where people always ask, does that mean that this is going to be another Irma or another Ian or another Charlie? And this, I think, will really wake some people up. Maximum wind speeds Okay, let me grab my protein shake here. Maximum wind speeds from previous hurricanes. These are maximum wind speeds from reliable weather sources that I found going through data. The strongest hurricane to hit Central Florida in 20 years was 20 years ago, Hurricane Charlie. Orlando had a maximum wind gust of 105 miles an hour. I remember when it happened. I was in the weather center at the television station I was working for at the time. And I remember reading that and just being like, wow. Irma, peak wind in Orlando, 79 miles an hour. Ian, peak wind in Orlando, 76 miles an hour. Nicole, peak wind, 66 miles an hour. I expect this wind energy from Hurricane Milton to be greater than Irma, Ian, or Nicole. I would say this in Orlando has the opportunity to be on level with Irma or Charlie. Okay, this is going to be a higher impact wind threat. So, again, when we look at that map, understand that this is going to be different than perhaps some of the more recent storms that we've had, right? We're talking about winds in the metro area probably being around the 90, 100, even up to 110 mile per hour wind gusts, and then pushing over to the shoreline, 75, 80, 90 miles an hour. Okay. This is going to be a significant wind event for Central Florida because the core of the storm will be moving through our area. Okay, we're going to get to the hour by hour. I'm going to show you Futurecast in a couple of minutes, but I want to discuss some of the other threats because those are no less impactful. Let's talk about flooding. Okay, based on the newest data, it looks like we could also be talking about a significant flooding event for Central Florida. On the scale of 1 to 4 for tropical flooding, we're a 4 out of 4. There's an extreme risk for pockets of flooding. Um, I'm Ironically, I'm in the boss's office because they're doing a lot of work in the newsroom. They're on the air in the studio, so she gave me the corner office. I was right there in the studio when we were looking at this exact graphic, looking almost identical during Ian. And we know the kind of rainfall that we got. We're going to look at the data here to discuss the threats. But I'm just trying, let's start with kind of a broad look and then we can dive in deeper, okay? So flooding, absolutely going to be a threat. Then, being on the right front quadrant, there's also the concern to see several tornadoes, especially I-4 kind of off to the south. The further north you live, could see a few. And then, of course, that tornado threat drops. Okay, so that's kind of the broad scope of things. There's also the concern for storm surge, and not just on the West Coast. There's even the concern of storm surge, interestingly enough, on the East Coast as well. And it's important to note, if you live beachside, for example, there are some evacuation orders that are posted. Okay, let's talk about the surge. Worst surge absolutely will be on the West Coast, a 10 to 15 foot storm surge, and that includes Tampa Bay. But on the Atlantic side, a 2 to 5 foot storm surge cannot be ruled out for Brevard, Volusia, and even Flagler counties. Okay? So that's the storm surge element. Let's dial into our Futurecast and try to get an idea of the winds. All right? Now, actually, before I even do that, let's talk about when I want you in your safe space. I want you locked in around lunchtime tomorrow, okay? Because after that, the squally weather starts, things just start to go downhill pretty quickly. Okay, so let's dial up Futurecast. And here's this morning. It's showing some coastal showers. No big deal. Today's a normal day. School for many is in session. There's going to be a few showers around. No big deal. It's fine. Overnight tonight, we'll have a little bit of rainfall. Tomorrow morning, we'll be fine. Here's 6 o'clock, seeing those showers picking up in coverage. But again, it's nothing but breeze. All right, 10, 11, 12 o'clock. That's lunchtime tomorrow. You're noticing the breeze picking up. Now, I picked lunchtime because I feel like after that, we'll start to get some squally weather, and that squally weather will pick up in intensity a little bit. Okay, so lunchtime, that's about when I want you locked in. Watch what Futurecast does. And again, remember, this is one run of one model, but at least it gives you an idea. Okay? All right, so Futurecast, 12, 12:30, 1 o'clock. Look at this outer band already working in 2, 2:30, 3 o'clock. You're already gusting 30 to nearly 40 miles an hour. That's an outer band. That's going to be a real powerful push of wind energy through the early afternoon. 5, 5:30, 6 o'clock. Notice the winds picking up, right? Nothing to hurricane force, but winds picking up. And then by 8 p.m., okay, this is when the core of the storm is knocking on the doorstep of Tampa Bay. Now, any subtle adjustment will play in significantly to the actual impacts on landfalling systems, right? And actual impacts of communities right at the beach. I think for us, we're pretty set in stone in terms of where we're at impact wise. But based on kind of a Tampa landfall, which is where our Futurecast is trying to dial this, okay? 8 o'clock, squally weather, absolutely increasing. Watch through time here. 9, 10 o'clock, winds getting into the 50 mile per hour range. We're getting closer to the center of circulation. It's going to be getting worse. Midnight, the things coming ashore, right? 50, 60 mile per hour winds, 1 a.m., 1:30, 2 o'clock. Now you're into hurricane conditions. Look at Winter Haven, 90 mile per hour winds. Look at Kissimmee, 71, 66 in St. Cloud, 61 in Orlando. The center of circulation almost right over top of Interstate 4, almost directly over top. Um, Look at Kissimmee there, 3:30, 80 mile per hour winds, getting into 82 in Kissimmee, 4 a.m. I'll tell you this much. Kellyanne and my shift starts at 2 a.m. I think Tony and Cam will probably have tornadoes to deal with. I think Kellyanne and I are going to be tracking the core of this hurricane. I will tell you this with absolute no hype. We're going to be here with you. Our families are here. We live here. So just understand we have no vested interest in hyping. We have no vested interest in scaring you. I swear to you. So when you turn on at 4 a.m., Wesh 2, Kellyanne and I will be with you. Our anchor team, our news team scattered around Central Florida to cover it. But that's what we'll be looking at. 4 a.m., the filling in eye, at that point it'll be filling in, I'm sure. But the center of circulation will be going right into downtown Orlando, bringing 70, 80 mile per hour gusts. Higher than that gusts, 70, 80 mile per hour sustained with higher gusts. There's 5 a.m., 60, 70 miles per hour. Watch 5, 6 o'clock, 60 mile per hour winds. But look at Brevard County, into hurricane force winds with higher gusts, right? 7 a.m., center of circulation, essentially right over what we think would be the Volusia-Brevard border. But notice Claremont still into hurricane force winds, right? 7:30, 8 o'clock, storm system starting to move off the shoreline, continuing 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, kind of little by little working off the shoreline. But it's in this window. Let me back it up just a little bit. It's in this window here. Look at the wind speeds, 56 miles per hour. If the center of circulation is right over what would be like New Smyrna, Titusville, that would pile water ashore. And so it's going to be kind of around sunrise tomorrow that we really start with a surge worry for Volusia, Flagler, St. Johns, Duval counties. Okay. And then, of course, after that, the storm system starts to move on out. All right. So that's the hour by hour look. I want to show you one more thing and then we'll look at recon again, which is comparing the last few forecast tracks. We took the cone, looked right at the center, and plotted them. Red is the current line, blue is the oldest line. And the Hurricane Center has been darn close to forecasting. And if you just look at kind of the shift from last night's 11 to this morning, it's as consistent as can be. No change, no shift, no track adjustment. The Hurricane Center has kept it identical. Okay. So I think that the overall confidence in this forecast, and I'll dial up the forecast cone again. I think the overall forecast confidence in their forecast cone is absolutely there. Okay. All right. So there's the cone. Now that I've run my mouth, we've got almost 10,000 of you, by the way, this morning joining us on our various platforms we're streaming on: YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, X. So now we can take questions, and I apologize if I've just been running my mouth. The Futurecast brings it in earlier than the National Hurricane Center track. Yeah, the Hurricane Center has slowed down. Our Futurecast has slowed down. This is subject to change. We'll watch and see how this is, right? How confident are we that this will go down to Cat 3 by landfall? I wouldn't say that we're 100% confident on it. I always say know what you know and know what you don't know, right? I'm just going to read a couple of pieces from the National Hurricane Center's discussion, okay? I'm just going to read to you, and all of this, by the way, what I'm about to read to you, this is available on the internet free of charge, all right? You know what? I'll put it on the screen for you. Why not show full transparency? For anybody that thinks we're geoengineering here. All right, this is the National Hurricane Center's forecast discussion. I'm just going to read it right with you here, okay? Structure of Milton has changed significantly overnight. The pinhole eye seen yesterday has filled, and earlier aircraft data showed a double eye wall structure. That double eye wall structure, okay, basically that's the new eye wall that's taking shape now. More recent microwave images show only one larger eye wall, and it's clear that Milton is completing an eye wall replacement cycle. These eye wall replacement cycles are common in strong hurricanes and often cause the peak winds to fluctuate while the wind field generally expands. Based on aircraft data a few years ago, the major hurricane beginning to gain latitude, fluctuations in strength due to structural changes are likely during the next day or so while Milton moves across the central and eastern Gulf of Mexico. An increase in vertical wind shear will likely cause some weakening before the hurricane reaches Florida, but there is high confidence Milton will remain an extremely dangerous hurricane when it reaches the state. After landfall, more notable, So, the words they used: an increase in vertical shear will likely cause some weakening. Okay? That's very important to read that way, okay? Because that's the way they wrote it. Okay, so there is a weakening trend, they think, because of some wind shear, but there's not a promise. And with these kinds of things, there's never a promise. You just have to watch and see. Okay, people are asking, did the cone shrink? You have to understand, yes, but you have to understand it's not because anybody shrinks. The way that the cone works is 12 hours out, the cone is this diameter. 24 hours out, the cone is this diameter. 48 hours out, the cone is this diameter. So as we get closer, the cone naturally shrinks. It has nothing to do with forecast confidence or any of that point. And the center of circulation for this, as I've mentioned before, the forecast confidence on this has grown. And the center of circulation among the last two forecasts, from when you went to bed to when you woke up, there has been no shift in landfall. The Hurricane Center is still essentially saying, like, Ruskin. That's where they expect the eye of the storm to be. Okay, so that's where we're at this morning. Okay. All right. More questions, comments, concerns, please. Could you possibly tell us how it will be affecting Palm Beach County? All right, so for Palm Beach County, you're much further south. You'll notice here, you're expecting tropical North County, strong tropical storm force winds, South County, 40, 50, 60 mile per hour gusts. But again, that can do some harm. So you can't rule that out as being an impactor. All right, let's take a look at the recon data while we're sitting here and chatting. 927, 927. Okay. All right. So they're outbound. They're going to both come back around and do that delicate dance and give us more data. All right. All right. Should I have my UF student come home to South Florida? I always say if you're ever worried, if you're ever concerned, the answer is yes. My only worry is getting caught in traffic, that sort of thing. what are local officials up there saying? Being that it's outside of my area, I just don't know. In at UCF, for example, campus is closed, etc. So it's a different story. So it's that's a difficult question to ask. But I always say we have a gut for a reason, right? Like trust your gut. That's the way I always look at it. Okay. Michael, what about the storm behind Milton? Man, we're in hurricane warnings. I'm going to focus on Milton. I don't want to even think about another storm. Scott's asking, am I okay in a mobile home in DeLand? If I'm honest with you, Scott, I would say no. I would say honest to goodness. Okay, and this is a question that we get a lot, and it's a very easy question to answer. The question oftentimes is, should I evacuate? We made this handy dandy graphic yesterday. The idea on this is, should I evacuate? For most everybody, the answer is no, you don't need to evacuate. The asterisk to it is, are you in an area that's susceptible to flooding? And are you in a situation like a mobile home, those modular homes? They're not built to handle this kind of wind. Now, speaking about rain, let's take a look at the European on the left, GFS on the right. Okay, those red shades north of I-4, you're looking at 8 to 12 inches and even some indications of 12 to 18 inches. If the GFS would to verify, that would be Ian level rains for some people. Certainly, we hope the European is more in line with 5 to 8 inches of rain. We'll see how this plays out. We'll be tracking these trends on the models, kind of model run by model run by model run, right? But yeah, it's there's going to be a significant rain event in addition to. Anne Maria says, question, my mom made a tiny home out of a shed. It's rated 180 mile per hour winds. A shed rated 180 mile per hour winds? With the grounds being saturated, have play into the wind ratings. We're in Webster, Sumter County. I would say that the ground being saturated the way that it is absolutely will play into like trees and things coming down. A shed rated to 180 miles an hour? I don't know about that. A tiny home, I don't know how it's anchored. I don't know any of these things. I would want to be on something with a solid foundation to ride through a hurricane. Just going to tell you the truth. Okay. All right. O'Callaghan, you're the most helpful. I cannot thank you enough. It's absolutely my honor and my privilege. Katie's asking, when is Hurricane Milton expected to turn into a Hurricane 5 again, or a Category 5 hurricane again? Yeah, so the expectation is later today. Look at the forecast from the Hurricane Center. By this afternoon, we should get through the eye wall replacement cycle. We think we're working through that right now, and thus we should get to that Category 5 hurricane status. Look at the infrared satellite imagery, right? That's the latest infrared. I'm going to give me a minute to just kind of tweak the camera shot here a bit. Okay. Hold on a second. Slide you over here. Okay. All right. And then I think there's a 1 minute. I haven't changed this, but I believe there's that the folks over at NOAA changed over to the mesoscale. Let's just check. And IR, oh, that goes west. That's why. Hold on a second. Goes east. East mesoscale. Giving it a second. Okay, so it's not 2, so let's go to 1. Goes east mesoscale. Of course, you're going to disappoint me, aren't you? That's 1 minute satellite data, of course. This is one of those fun things when you're playing around with this stuff on the fly. Oh, there it is. There you are, sweetheart. Although that's an ugly color table. All right. So this is 1 minute satellite data. Let me just come back here. All right. Instead of 6 hours, let's go to the last hour. Yeah. All right. Do that. Do that. All right. Perfect. Let me just zoom it in. Bear with me. Just trying to, I want to get like the 1 minute And we'll go back 2 hours. Last hour, last 2 hours. Perfect. Okay. All right. So this now that I've got it set up, this is the if you're new to Coffee Talk, and I appreciate you being here. Again, we've got about 10,000 people watching, so there's a lot of people that don't normally watch. Um, we build graphics on the fly sometimes. But look at the structure of the storm. Okay, this is 2 hours ago. Okay, and let me just go through time here and watch that center of circulation, and you can clearly see it's starting to open up a new eye, right? Like you can clearly see that. It's not cleared yet. It's trying to. Oh, it's trying to. So we're almost there. The storm is almost cleared out a new eye. All right. When that happens, we'll definitely have intensity pick back up. So, I mean, I don't love that. I know you don't love that. I don't love that. But Milton is expected to become a Category 5 again later today. And of course, from there, um, hopefully weaken from some wind shear. All right. All right. Lots and lots of comments. So I apologize for those of you that are asking and I'm just not getting to them. Let's see here. No sandbags near me. I guess I'll use trash bag. If we have to improvise, we just have to improvise, right? Yeah. Brandy's asking, do they run the models or data more frequently the closer the hurricane gets to land? We're pushing these, and these are like supercomputers. I mean, I'm on a MacBook Pro right now. I think that's a supercomputer, but it's not compared to where the officials run. So yeah, they don't. They're running everything at maximum capacity right now. So no, they don't run them any more than that. Okay. Um, Somebody's asking about this pretty close to what we had with Gene and Francis in '04 in Marion County. So, and I did this comparison a moment ago. We're forecasting wind speeds again in the metro area to run anywhere from 74 to 110 miles per hour. 74 to 110 miles per hour. When you look at the hurricanes, like the last four truly impactful hurricanes to impact Central Florida, the strongest was Charlie 20 years ago with 105 mile per hour winds. So to that point, we very much could challenge the Charlie kind of record for Central Florida, right? We could challenge that. And you know what? While we're here, see, this is where you make me think. All right, Climo. I want to look and see Orlando International Airport single station daily data listing. Uh, mm, it doesn't have wind data. Dang it. Observation temperature. It doesn't have wind data. Mm. Extremes, not temperature. It's only got temperature. Okay, I've got a way that I could go in and query climatology, but it doesn't have wind data. I was gonna look and see like what's the highest. Maybe I'll call the weather service when I get off of Coffee Talk and ask them. Yeah. So anyway, I was gonna look and see, but for the research I did yesterday, Hurricane Charlie at 105 was the highest wind gust. We have the potential of breaking that here. So let's look at when then do things get bad. And if you've watched for the last couple of minutes, I'm basically saying I want you home by lunchtime. There's a little wiggle room there. I understand life happens, but I want you home by lunchtime. Okay. So then if the worst of the weather is overnight, when does the worst of the weather actually arrive? Let's chat. For the Tampa Bay area, 8 o'clock is when things are going to start to get grumpy. 11 o'clock for Orange, Osceola, Polk, Lake, Sumter, Marion counties. 11 p.m. bedtime, right? Not the best. It's going to be an overnight storm passing. And then Volusia, Flagler, Seminole, Brevard counties, 2 a.m. is when the worst of the weather will move through. I promise you, we're going to be here with you. We've not let you go. To all the folks that have complained, you guys are doing too much weather coverage. Our our whole shtick is first warning weather, is to be here for you. So Sorry to those that are annoyed, but to those of you that are not, thank you. We're going to be here with you. I don't want to be away from my bed, but we're going to do this together. So, just for staffing purposes, you've got Tony and Cam until 2 a.m. And then at 2 a.m., Kellyanne and I take over. So you're going to kind of have both teams working with you through the core of this storm system. We are all going to be here with you. Tony and I have been in Florida almost as long as the dirt has. So there you go. All right. Janice says we are in for a wild ride. Unfortunately, we are. I don't love it. I don't love it. I really don't. Yeah. But we'll be here. My brother Frank says Winn-Dixie's open until 5 because they don't care about their employees. All right. Well, it's such a tough. I mean, listen, my brother Frank is in Pinellas. Obviously, I do not want my brother Frank to be there. I I feel like maybe it's just this delicate balance of they want to be able to supply people, right? I can't speak on their behalf. All I can say is Pinellas is under an evacuation order, if I recall. So, Frank, I want to make sure no matter what happens with work, you get the heck out of Dodge. And anyone else that's told to evacuate, get the heck out of Dodge. Okay? That's a very clear, I'm not going to mince words about that. All right? All right. So people are asking questions like, how confident are we that it's going to weaken? And I just kind of went over that a little bit, but the idea here is that there is an increase in shear. And another thing, another piece of this too is when we look at the intensity models show a gradual downtick, right? So we're at a high-end category 4 now, making landfall late Wednesday, early Thursday. So you can see that tick where it's kind of coming down a little bit and then it drops off a little bit steeper. That's the landfall, of course. I'll be interested to see. We're getting a ton of recon data coming in, and so it'll be interesting to see with all of this recon data what it looks like getting into the computer system, getting into all of the computer models, and kind of mapping out down the line. We get new models about every 6 hours. It seems like it's a long time, but you have to understand oh my God, I cannot even imagine the kind of data that these models have to run through. Weather balloons, recon, believe it or not, like there is cell phone data, airplane data that goes into it. It's unbelievable. And every year there's more and more and more data that goes into these computer models. So we're not 100% confident in it, but enough. All right, let's go back and look at some of the recon data as those two. I just want to see NOAA is in there. All right, so both the NOAA in blue and United States Air Force in red, both aircraft are turning back, it looks like, to do another core punch. 927 millibars is what they both read on the last core punch. So if the next punch goes lower, that would indicate that the storm is getting stronger. If the next core punch is higher, then there you go. It's continuing to weaken. We've observed it weaken, but the thought process is it will be a temporary weakening. Okay. Is this considered a fast moving storm? In terms of what? In terms of its relative motion, it's currently moving at 12 miles an hour. It's moving, 5 to 10 miles an hour, I'd say, is about normal. So maybe it's a little quick mover, but you know, um, it's getting picked up atmospherically, so that makes sense. And that being picked up is also why the expectation of wind shear plays into it as it approaches Florida. Yeah. All right. How bad do you think it will be in some areas? Well, we discussed this. I think that it's probably going to be among the lines of Hurricane Charlie or Irma in the metro area. It's going to be a significant storm for the area. Absolutely is. Okay. I truly wish it was not. I really don't want to. I don't want to have to deal with it. I know you don't want to have to deal with it, but here we are. Okay. Brian Tittle, always with some good information. Folks, be prepared to care for yourself during and for a while after the storm passes. That's why we talk about putting together storm kits, right? Most emergency agencies have policies to not be on the roads if sustained winds are over 40 to 45 miles per hour, plus debris is backed up. Call load will greatly slow response times as they get back into response mode. It's true. It's absolutely true. That's why we discuss having your hurricane kit, right? So that you can be prepared, so that you can take care of yourself. My house, listen, yesterday I made a bolognese, chef's kiss, and threw it right in the freezer. It's like, all right, that way we've got bolognese at some point, right? We're gonna do a pot roast tonight. It's cooking and doing large. For me, it's my strategy in tropical systems is cooking large things that you could throw in the freezer, and that way you've got it. That way it's easy meals that you can easily heat back up, that sort of thing. So there's, for those of us that have lived in Hurricane Alley for so long, it's those little things. But the idea, and Brian, thank you, Brian, by the way, former law enforcement for a long time in Central Florida. But I think that it's strategy to take care of yourself during the storm and for a little while after, because there's going to be power outages. And to that point, we haven't even discussed the power outage potential in Central Florida, though this shouldn't truly be a surprise as to locations. We expect there to be widespread power outages for Florida's West Coast, from the Nature Coast down through Tampa Bay and into the Sun Coast. In the rest of our Central Florida coverage area, I'm expecting likely power outages, and we've got that data going live into our computer system. We will be watching that data. We will be speaking with emergency officials and, of course, hearing what they have to say about the response. Linemen, linewomen, they are all just doing yeoman's work. They always take such good care of us. And for any of you that are linemen or women, for any of you that are spouses of first responders, whether it's emergency, whether it's the power crews, the water crews, what have you, just such a great heartfelt thank you for what you do for our communities. Truly, 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 from the bottom of my heart. Yeah. All right. All right, let's see. Questions. Let's see. Erica giving great storm advice here. Fill Ziplocs with water 3/4 of the way to make ice packs. Then use washing machine as a cooler with ice packs if needed. I've never heard that one. That's interesting. I don't hate that idea. That use the washing machine as a cooler. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah. Um, Marissa says you need power to heat it back up. Bad advice. Dry or canned foods is what's needed to prepare. You can use your grill and a pot to heat it back up. Or, yeah, you can have non-perishables. It's all about different strategies. Bad advice. Thanks for that, Marissa. Gewalt. All right, let's see here. Confidence is not high, unfortunately. We do not know where it will hit. I beg to differ. I would say that there's a pretty high degree of confidence in the last few forecasts. The Hurricane Center is not tweaking it. Now, there's going to be wobbles and things like that. If we go back and look at the last 5 forecasts, these are the last 5 tracks from the National Hurricane Center. There has been nearly no shifting in their messaging, nearly no shifting in their forecasting. So, yeah, I think we actually have a pretty good confidence on where we think the storm system will go, somewhere around Tampa Bay. Models can shift. Storms will shift. Absolutely. We've got a pretty good confidence on where it's going to go in that vicinity. Yeah. All right. All right. Any other questions? There's a million questions coming through. We have almost 1,100 viewers. And to all of you, I thank you. I've said many times, I do coffee talk every morning, almost 7 days a week, at work, not at work, almost 7 days a week, at 8 o'clock, whether the weather's bad or not. And I will always work hard to earn your trust. I'll work harder to keep your trust. Okay? All right. So, again, let's go through the timeline and let's let this be kind of our last thought here, okay? Surge on the high side, 3 to 5 feet. It looks more and more, honestly, let me tweak this. The East Coast surge is more like a 2 to 4 feet. Let me fix this. Stand by. Again, we make the sausage here. So hold on a second. All right, 2 to 4. If we're going to talk about it, it needs to be perfected. 3 to 5. Hold on. 2 to 4. Okay, save and load. All right, so here's my family operates on a calendar. So here's the idea, right? So, first thing, rain. Flooding concern, that's just across the board, right? Wednesday morning, it'll turn breezy. Wednesday late morning through the afternoon into the overnight, we'll have that threat for scattered tornadoes, several tornadoes, right? Then Wednesday morning, it'll be breezy. Wednesday, kind of late morning into the afternoon, we'll start to see those feeder bands with those gusts. Wednesday night is when we get into the powerful winds, right? Yeah. And then, of course, kind of through the day Wednesday, particularly into the later Wednesday night, Thursday morning time frame, that's also where we'll look at the East Coast storm surge worries. Okay. All right. That's our timeline, everybody. Okay. All right. Listen, I am going to be on the air. I believe Kellyanne class gets the 9 o'clock hour off. I'll be on the air with meteorologist Marquise Meetup. We will be taking care of you. Okay. And I'll be posting videos and other things throughout the day. All right. All right. Listen, be the sunshine in someone else's day. Thank you so much for hanging out for Coffee Talk and stay safe. We'll be here with you. I promise. I can't promise that I'll do a Coffee Talk when we're actually in the hurricane. I'll do the best I can. But in the meantime, we'll do the